Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with fabulous concert programs. Concerts you wish you could see live, but you never will because nobody is brave enough to actually perform them. But you can listen to them in the comfort and convenience of your own home and have a perfectly marvelous evening. And even you can have a perfectly marvelous evening when we're doing our Alan Pettersson Symphony Cycle, symphonies of darkness and turbulence and strife, but also of lyricism and consolation and occasionally even kind of sort of hopefulness, maybe a little bit. Anyway, it doesn't matter because they are marvelous works. And we're at number 3 of our Pettersson Symphony Cycle, which means we're at Symphony number 4 because Symphony number 1 was never completed, although it was actually kind of completed, made performable by Christian Lindbergh, but we talked about that already, didn't we? Now we're on Symphony number 4. Now, after the Third Symphony, which was in the standard 4 movements, we're back to Pettersson's standard operating procedure, which is to have one single movement that contains all of the goodies you usually get in a 4-movement symphony. The fourth is one of the most strongly contrasted in terms of the angst-filled, tension-filled stuff and the lyrical, relaxed, tonal, pretty stuff. It's in these sections that sort of alternate back and forth. And one of the things you're beginning to find, if you've been following this series, and you will continue to find, is that Pettersson's vision is getting longer, whereas his earlier symphonies had very distinct sections, and the fourth does too, that kind of alternate. They're beginning to sort of seep into each other and blend, not in terms of being uniform, but in terms of contrasting ideas which rise to the surface and do things that way. In other words, he's thinking in longer paragraphs, in bigger spans, and the fourth is part of that process. It has some really, really beautiful lyrical moments, alternating with some really scarifying, nasty, vicious moments. The other thing that you hear in these symphonies as they grow on is how simple his ideas are. Especially in his quick music, the lyrical themes tend to metamorphose and seldom recur in exactly the same form, although sometimes they do, but mostly not. They are varied constantly. They're more like topoi kinds of music, whereas the fast stuff is usually based on a very, very simple idea or motive, a few notes, a chord, a handful of things that he varies constantly, but repeats over and over and over again in different registers. And you've got his wonderful screechy violin music that sounds like the shower scene from Psycho, and you've got like the crazy percussion riffs and all that stuff, but always with these very simple ideas. And so the music is becoming also more declamatory. In other words, it just talks to you. It just says, it's in your face. It says, "Here I am. Take that." Or take this. You see? And the Fourth Symphony is quite a bit like that. And so, yes, it ends quietly, and we'll have a whole thing in the first half where we just do the Fourth Symphony, so everybody can enjoy it fresh for what it is. And I just think these pieces are going to come as revelations. I really do, to audiences and listeners alike, because they have this reputation for being terribly formidable emotionally, which they are, but formally they're not hard to listen to. They get easier actually as time goes on. It seems as though his means of expression became more direct, and his economy and his treatment of material also greater. So the symphonies actually have more clarity as you go on. But we'll see how that works out, won't we? Because we've got 16 of these to get through. So after the Fourth Symphony, we have intermission. And after intermission, we do, normal stuff. Piston. Walter Piston's 3 New England Sketches. A wonderful work. It's his only programmatic work, actually, along with the ballet, the flute thing, but the 3 New England Sketches are absolutely wonderful. There's a seascape, and it's beautifully scored, and it's just a delightful piece. It's short, aphoristic. It's like 15, 20 minutes long for all 3 movements. And then after that, After that lovely little jeu d'esprit, we're going to do the Montsalvatge Concierto Breve for piano and orchestra. One of his best-known pieces, one of his more popular ones, to the extent anything he wrote was popular. Montsalvatge lived to be like 175,000 and wrote tons of music. This piece was championed by Alicia de la Rocha, who recorded it twice. And really, it's a 20th century masterpiece. If you like, Prokofiev's piano concertos, for example, you're going to love this. It's a real crowd pleaser, and it's not so breve. I mean, Concierto Breve is short concerto. It's normal concerto length. It makes a great, dazzling end to the concert. It'll give a soloist a real round of applause. And the interesting thing about these three pieces, I've said before that the concept behind this series of programs is shut up and play the music. It's not trying to find things that are related to other things or making a big deal about the darkness and profundity of Pettersson so you don't know what goes next or any of those things. It's not about that. It's about just listening to great music. And what's interesting about this program is they do have something in common, and that's chronology. They were all written in the 1950s, all three works. The Pettersson Symphony was 1958, 1959. The Piston was 1959. The Montsalvatge was 1953. So I think it's actually a splendid program to give you an example of the wonderful things that were happening in contemporary classical music in a very brief span of time in the 1950s, the range of styles and aesthetics on offer. So give this a shot. I think it will really open your eyes to the possibilities of classical music, and also, I think, and this is really important, drive home the idea that, the golden age of the symphony and orchestra was, in fact, the 20th century. It was not the 19th century, despite the classical canon that was written at that time. When all of this great music was written for the orchestra, you needed orchestras. You needed good orchestras. You needed orchestras that could play complex music with complex rhythms and crazy orchestration. And all of these pieces, in their various ways, demonstrate that the availability of these marvelous symphony orchestras led composers to write fabulous, fabulous music. So have a lovely time listening to this concert. It's really a fun one. Keep on listening, friends, and thanks for joining me. Take care.